Hey everyone, welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is Black Tech Talk, episode 904. I'm here with my co-host, Craig, the tech guy. What's going on, Craig?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for the invite.
No problem. I've seen you around the Manosphere, and I definitely wanted to actually chop it up with you. Having the name Craig, the tech guy, and I was always curious as to what you were doing in terms of tech. Where does that name actually come from?
Well, it's a takeoff on some guy that a guy that I thought was hokey. That called himself a tech guy. He worked at Best Buy, and he was actually doing podcasts from Best Buy with his blue shirt on. I'm like, wait a minute, this clown can say he's a tech guy. I'm gonna say I'm a tech guy too. So it's a takeoff on that dude. They call him the Canadian con man. I'm not gonna say his name on the air, but his nickname was the Canadian con man. So
okay.
You cannot be a tech guy. I know more than he does.
Now, would you consider yourself to be in tech?
Yeah, in the sense that I like electronics. I've always kind of been an electronic nerd. I always wanted to get the newest thing, whether it's the newest headset or I taught myself how to build PCs because I wanted to just learn how to do it. Everybody was like, was this like 7 parts? I'm like, oh, I can do 7 parts. So once I built that and then I turned it on and it actually worked, I was kind of like, I did it. So yeah, but I like TVs. I have a Discord. I always talk to people about the best TV for their budget. And I'm like, you don't have to give me the budget on air. Just email me, because everybody's budget is different. So I said, just email me, and then I will actually physically go to the store, take the notes, and then come back to you and say, if you're going to pay that much, here's the best TV for you to buy right now. And so I've been able to help, several people, mostly black men that are reaching out, because nobody wants to spend X amount of dollars, Mike, and get ripped off. I mean, I got ripped off because I didn't ask the right questions about TV. So I'm like, well, let me pay it forward, help some other dudes that may not have the knowledge and are willing, I got to keep saying this, willing to reach out and learn more. That's it doesn't work unless somebody's willing to reach out.
You must have started back during the Circuit City days.
It was after Circuit City, yeah, but I remember that store. Circuit City, H.H. Gregg, all them. It basically really got started when HDR kind of started becoming normal, when 3D went from the theaters to home to the TVs, things like that. What was better to get a Sony TV, a Samsung TV, things like that. They were those were the 2 top of the line TVs back then. LG also they were coming up. You could see them coming up on the rise. So, and now they're your top 3 as far as high-end TV. They are the top 3. Mm-hmm. Although TCL is making some noise. So.
Mm-hmm. And would you consider that to be like your hobby?
Yeah. Okay. Hobby. Being online, hobby. I do not care when grown men. And this is just my pet peeve. Mm-hmm. This has nothing to do with anybody. Mm-hmm. I don't like when grown-ass men are online asking for money. I don't, as a man, I'm like, you can't, and I have super chats on my channel, but I say just donate a like and a share. Mm-hmm. So the last super chat I got was on my birthday, and somebody was just like, hey, have a beer on me. Oh, okay, fine. Mm-hmm. But I am not actively seeking out money. Black men need to put their money towards like political super PACs. Not, we need to create our own super PAC or PAC. Not give people money because they're treating the treatment. There's all these people giving you the placebo for the treatment, but nobody's offering the cure because there's no money. Mike, I mean, this is what Chris Rock, the comedian, said over 30 years ago. He said that there'll never be a cure for HIV and AIDS because there's no money. The money is in your treatments, not your cure. Somebody cures it, yeah, everybody's going to jump up and down. That guy win a Nobel. He'll do a world tour. but there's no more money. So if black men are serious about getting laws changed and things like that, pacts have to be created. State-to-state pacts have to be created to get that change. If not, you're just going to have a group of black men online, wherever they are, choose your platform, just bitching and moaning. So that's where everything kind of stands right now. And that's the difference in what black women have done and what black men have done. Black women have actually, and I've heard other black men say this too, they've actually put their money out there and created pacts. And black men are behind. We're catching up, but we're still about a decade behind.
So how did you get into tech? In terms of like the industry that you work in?
Oh, the industry, I'm in the medical field. So seeing where it was versus where it was going, we were starting to get heavier tech in when the AI was getting better for our information, or they called it informatics at the time. And we were actually bringing in robots to do surgeries with. So you would sit there in almost a virtual environment and do the surgery. You could practice the surgery through the robot, and then once you got comfortable with it, they would 2 days later the patient comes rolling through the OR. And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is almost like a game. You could set your axes on it. You can put on headphones. You can listen to music if that's what you wanted. And you would hold these graspers. They had 4 graspers, and you were constantly changing. But one of the sales reps said, "Yeah, this is a Medtronic sales rep." He said, "This is the future," and that when you think of the medicine and tech, we are already walking machines, Mike. We have pacemakers. We have
which was invented by a black man.
Yeah, we have brain stimulators. So understand what that does. They implant this in your brain to help control, in most cases, Parkinson's disease, along with medication. So that people can come in, I kid you not, 8 o'clock in the morning, have a digital brain, have a brain scan, go in, have it adjusted, have their right there, outpatient. I'm talking outpatient, Mike. They do this outpatient, and then the patient walks out, and you get to see instant. It's like plastic surgery. You see it instant. So with the medical field kind of marrying into tech, that's where we are now. Now, here's the bad news. The AI has gotten so good, you can actually hold up X-ray to the AI machine or X-ray machine, and it will tell you exactly what's wrong, and it'll do it within 6 to 10 seconds. It gets it right all the time. The medical billing and coding, that's pretty much done from humans. We still do it, but the tech from AI has gotten so good that it doesn't make mistakes. Like, it does not make mistakes. So guess what that means? That means that your provider who did that sequence of events with the patient, they're gonna get paid faster. What do you think your providers want? Wait months to get paid, or get paid within the next 7 to 10 possibly business days? So with the tech, computer tech marrying medicine, that's been the biggest advancement in medicine over the last decade. The meds have gotten better too, but the technology that we have as diagnostic tools have been, because of that, it's a marriage, and I love it, but it's also made me more aware. But I'm on the back end of my medical career, so these nurses and techs that are coming up, it's gotten a lot more in depth for them. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So do you think, or at least have any concern, like, of AI kind of replacing your job?
What I'm doing now, no. But it has the capability. They can, in theory, right now. I don't know if you saw the movie, it came out years ago, called Prometheus.
Yes.
They actually have a machine that can do something of that magnitude, not for something that in depth, but it looks similar to that. It will map everything out for you. Like, there's different brain things that can be done. They actually create waypoints like I don't when you if you in a jet plane like a fighter jet, they your targeting packages are provided by waypoints, and you just fly those waypoints. The computer is doing that for us to get us to the certain point. So it's like somebody said years ago, technology will make you stupider because you'll become dependent on it. But no, overall, it's not a threat to me personally, because I saw it coming. Number two, I would always get to a department where it was always behind. They were like, "Oh no, it's coming, but we're 7 to 10 years away," or something. Like, all right, well, that's fine. I'm good where I am now in my clinic setting. You know, no weekends, no holidays. Yeah, I got it. I'm on what you were. I'm not on easy street, but as far as the career is concerned, yeah, I'm good. I'm happy where I am. I made the right decisions. Made some bad ones too. We're human, you know. Sure, you made some too. We all have. But overall, I am happy with how things turned out.
No, and that's completely understandable, because, like you said, you know, they say it's going to be 7 to 10 years out in your field. Then the life cycle for technology and the enterprise is usually that 3 to 5 year window. Yeah. And so 7 to 10 years makes a lot of sense, because enterprise architecture reviews can take a year just off of that alone. You're not even talking about acquisition of the technology itself, onboarding and things like that. There's a whole entire life cycle that is involved in bringing on new technology. And some people think that, you know, AI is just going to solve everything. No, not exactly. We're not bringing that into our environment until we have a complete understanding of how this is going to impact the business, so I was going to benefit the business. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because then this leads me to my next question. You know, what impact does education have in your line of work? You know, have you had to go back to school? Has your degree or your education help accelerate, you know, where you are?
Yeah, it definitely helps me. I have 2 degrees. One is in medical billing and coding. The other is in surgical technology. And so as far as understanding the human body and the actual processes of the human body, it's not just your hand, it's this. So when I was learning this, and it was like, oh, this football player got hurt. One of the most successful surgeries known to man was a football player named Rod Woodson. He tore his ACL. Yeah, he tore his ACL in like week 3. The man came back the same year, played in the Super Bowl, and made 2 to 3 plays. That was done, I believe, with a cadaver. So I think it was either cadaver, or they took another part of a ligament and they just grafted it onto his ACL. If you want to understand, if you cross your fingers, all that kind of stuff, that's what your ACL and PCL looks like. Like literally, that's what it looks like. So the forefinger would be the interior, the post is the behind, like a post pattern in football. You run a post, and so the fact that they were able to go in, drill the holes, okay, put the cadaver, put the ligament in, get the correct blood flow, because it's already part of his body, it's automatically recognized. That was one of the most successful ACL surgeries. And now when a guy it used to be, you know, in the 80s, you tear your ACL, you were done. That's what made Michael Jordan's comeback. People got to remember, he tore his ACL. It took him almost 18 to 20 months to come back. So now the technology, that's 9 months. And with some guys, it's 7 months. This is stem to stern surgery. Okay. So, and the fact that they can do that through the technology, through the advancements, is it's amazing, and it really is exciting where we'll be a decade from now.
No, that's definitely dope, and I agree with you on that. I remember Kobe had went to Germany to get plasma surgery done, you know, and so it shows you the advancement of the technology with medicine.
Yeah.
Thinking back, you said you've built your own PCs, you know, dabbled with, you know, the electronics. Has that benefited you in your role?
Yeah, what I do when I do my podcast, yeah, because again, there's a connection there when you talk to people, because people, it's like an offensive lineman. if they, offensive linemen with quarterbacks, how do they develop trust? Well, the offensive lineman has an instinct of smelling bullshit, coming from the quarterback. This is, everybody knows this if you played the game. Offensive linemen have a good bullshit meter. So do people in tech. So there needs to be a genuine connection, not one where somebody's kissing my ass or I'm kissing their ass. So me building my own PC, when I'm talking the differences in the PCs, here's, hey, you don't need to go out and spend $1,000 on this when you can get this over here for $799. Then you optimize it and you're going to get equal to better or almost as good as performance. This is the AMD versus NVIDIA. Lisa Su came out and said our stuff will not ever be as good as NVIDIA's. However, we can give you a comparable result cheaper. I want to make this clear. So if
is this in regards to graphics, or is you talking about AI?
Well, with AI, both AI, AMD still behind, but I'm just talking about as far as getting comparable results. No, well, graphics, the CPUs. Remember, AMD makes CPUs, NVIDIA does not. So what she did is she just pretty much came out and said our stuff won't be as good. She had to admit that NVIDIA is further ahead, but in NVIDIA you got to pay out the ass for it, right? And a lot of people can't afford it. So she said, we're going to make something comparable to that is going to give you similar results, but maybe not the same. And that's why they're successful. They came like one step below, and instead of charging $1,200 for a GPU, like a graphics card, they charge $899, and the graphics are negligible. So yeah, I'm more about people getting, what's the best way, what's the most efficient, that's what I call it, what's the most efficient way to get the results that you want, maybe not get the exact result as good as, but you can get comparable and you have some more money in your pocket, which that's what everybody ultimately wants in the end.
Definitely. Speaking of AI, what impact do you think AI is going to have on Black men in the workplace?
If you can get in front of it right now, and I know the Theo Waff has talked about this, so I don't I'm just going to paraphrase him. If we can get in front of it, we're going to have a windfall. If you get caught behind it, there is no catching up. It is that the machine learning. We hear this a lot. That alone, what it does at 8 o'clock in the morning, it ain't gonna do the same at 12 because it's learned something. And that so as far as Black men are concerned, if you're going into tech, try to get into AI, try to get into software engineering. You ain't got to be the biggest baddest on the block, but you have to at least, because again, you work in that field, and these companies, they don't care what you look like. It's just they want their shit to work.
Right.
One bad thing happened overnight, something goes down, they may lose millions or billions. All that shit happened with Microsoft, a few weeks ago.
That was CrowdStrike, yeah.
Yeah, and they literally came out, the guy in CrowdStrike was something like, well, we know it's wrong, it's just gonna take us time to fix it. Meanwhile, like that struck us in our offices. So, at our labs, they couldn't do the labs because everybody has now become dependent on the technology. And kind of us, the older folks there, we were laughing. We're like, it's 1988 again. This is what we had to do. You had to, guess what? Get a pen, had to get a blue pen, black pen, and now you have to document, which we were just doing it because it was a throwback. And of course, the younger folks like, man, this sucks, man. This is terrible. I can't do this. I can't do that. So it's like, well, you're supposed to do your task and have your Rolodex there. They don't have that. It's all electronic. It was on their tablets and things like that. So they couldn't call the patients back because they're so used to pressing a button and it does it for them. So that was crazy. I still remember that day, just to look on people's faces like, how did you all survive? Back then. But the dependence on the technology that's it's the same. Dependence on technology makes you dumber because you become more dependent on the technology. So you got to learn how to operate the technology. There's your power. The AI is smart, but it's only as smart as who is programming it to do what it does. So,
No, I definitely agree with that. I think one of the major issues that I see with black men in particular is that we're not well represented in the information technology, information systems fields. As it stands right now, less than 10% of most organizations have black representation. We're not even talking about just black men, but we're talking about black men and black women. Less than 10% representation. Cybersecurity, less than 3.5%. The semiconductor industry, less than 4%. And so we're not really trending upward in these these vertical markets, especially when you start talking about AI. My fear is that black men are some of them just going to get left behind, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think when you start talking about the Chips and Science Act, for example, Biden Harris had came up with, there's a lot of resources behind that goes into AI development. And so I think some people should take this into consideration, that there's a lot of opportunities that's going to come from that, and put that on your radar, that there's going to be some funding coming down. There's going to be some opportunity that's going to come out of that. And AI, it's not just about what you see in the movies, but it's how do you impact business? How do you accelerate business? Because a lot of people think that the ATM machine did away with the bank teller. Not exactly. You still have bank tellers. You still have ATM machines. Both things can work in concert with each other. But ATM machines are more about automation, more so than artificial intelligence. But on the back end now, you see the artificial intelligence, and so yep. That's definitely real. Switching gears really quickly. Last year, the Supreme Court made a decision on affirmative action, and in some of these conservative states in the South, you do have anti-DEI legislation, anti-affirmative action legislation. How do you think that's going to impact black men when you start talking about getting into some of these tech industries, or some of these more vertical industries that's taken off, such as the medical field? Do you think you're going to see less brothers, less black folks in these verticals being represented?
I mean, as far as the way it's going to affect us, black men did not benefit from affirmative action. They're calling it DEI now. So we're outside looking in. That's just kind of the way things are. You're in a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, I can get a scholarship to University of Alabama, but I better be able to dunk the basketball. Again, that's symbiotic. I'm getting something, but I'm giving something. Even if you go into the military, you give them something. They do give you great benefits. But I agree with what you said earlier. There's going to be a lot of black men left behind. If you don't want to learn to program AI, then try to get to a point where you can invest in, like you said, the companies. No, we don't. It's not going to affect us as much because we didn't benefit from it as much. It's like the human appendix. We have one, but it's just there, and we're just, since it will affect. I did see some things, and I think Lester Holt of NBC was just talking about this. Something about enrollment for women on some campuses has started to fall. Maybe not that much, but it's going to be a slow roll, like the cartoon of the snowball going down the hill. It's going to get big enough one day. But as far as black men in the industries, like I said, it's from people I've talked to in that industry. They just want their stuff to work. And so as long as their stuff works, it could be Daffy Duck programming or coming in to help maintain it. But no, I think overall as black men, we were the least represented in affirmative action. That went to white women and black women. So they're the ones who are going to feel the brunt of these decisions that are coming down, because now they thought they were getting those jobs because they were kick ass. No, you got the job because you had breasts and a vagina, not because you were kick ass. So And now that they no longer have to hire you, because they no longer have that quota, if you want to call it that, to get that done. And with the Me Too movement, you got guys interviewing, and they're saying things like during the interviews, well, you don't have to worry about me running the HR with a Me Too moment during the interviews. So that's that's just one thing that but it won't really affect us up. I want to make this clear, up front, not the brunt of it. The women will feel the brunt because they are the biggest benefactors. That's why. Hopefully that the people who are listening, that makes logical sense. All right. So like they exploded the Trinity bomb, they were 10 miles away. Their direct effect wasn't the heat. It was what? It was the blinding light, and then the actual sonic boom that came, right after. But so again, they didn't have the effect of the poor prairie dogs and all that kind of stuff that was generated within that 7 mile area out in the desert. So.
What's the representation look like where you work? Is it, can you count on more than one hand, or in terms of how many brothers are there, or?
Actually, yes. Now, most of the brothers that are there are in med school.
Oh, okay.
In the clinic. So that changes, every year you get a new crop of, first years, second years, and they match. They may go other places. But yeah, pretty much now there's a lot more Black women there in their respective roles, whether it's checking people in and out. Checkout has, I want to say there's like 6 Black women, but they've hired a few more people who don't look like us. Let's just put it like that, which is fine because we're at a university, and I mean there's different opportunities for people coming in. So yeah.
In regards to like how you get by and your day-to-day, deal with stress at work, or you may want to make a move at work, you consider a mentor? Do you have a mentor, and if so, what kind of impact does it have on you?
Several mentors. Most 2 teachers, Mary Finn and my football coach, Coach Blodgett. The coach taught me that, because I didn't make the team in 7th grade. And the coach just said, look, here's what you can try to work on in the off season if you want to. And he said, but if you do these things, you'll be better. You're running to where the ball carrier is. You have to run to where he's going to go. So it was just stuff like that mentoring. Mary Finn, she helped me with my grades. I was struggling in a couple classes. So she actually said, well, you can come in here. Because she didn't leave till 4:30. So class got dismissed at 3:15. I would stay over, and she would help me out in some of my classes. Going on, and when I started working at a hospital, there were several doctors. Dr. Jeff Parr is an orthopedist. He took me under his wing. Dr. Sloan, she was requesting me to be in her room. All of that, got invited to parties, got to hobnob, went to a party where the governor of my state was at.
Wow. And
so the young lady that I went there with, she was like, oh my God, my boyfriend knows the governor. I said, I don't know him, but it was a pleasure to meet him, right? So yeah, that's kind of my big moment there. But that starts in the junior high, middle school with the coach, with that teacher staying, allowing me to stay over. I don't get to that point where I'm shaking hands in a social setting. This wasn't a political setting. It was a Christmas party with the governor. And again, the folks I called him Your Honor. I called him Sir. They didn't do that. They were calling him by his first name. And they're like, we need to do this. We need to do that. This governor would come to the hospital. And I'm like, I don't understand. How do you all have that much power that the governor of the state, the governor of our state, was coming to the hospital, and they were in there calling. I was like, man, look, I remember saying this about one of the cardiologists. One of the thoracic surgeons. I'm like, look, he's the man. He is in there calling the governor by his first name. And this nurse practitioner was in the room. She was married to the gynecologist. She said, well, we call him by his first name too. I'm like, nah. And then that's when they invited me to the Christmas party. I'm like, yeah, they were calling him by his first name. And so yeah, but understand the mentoring starts at one point and goes to another point, goes to another point, goes to another point. And as long as you understand that circle, you won't disrespect your mentors, and your mentors will always be there for you, till they go meet their maker. And several of mine have, but I'm not where I'm at unless that coach tells me stop running to the ball and run to where the ball is going. I don't get there unless Miss Finn says, I won't, if you're struggling with this class, you can come in here and stay for an extra hour and I can try to help you out. I don't get there. There's just no way I'm going to get there. So yeah, when I go to work in the morning, I'm eating breakfast or something like that, I'll look out the window and, always point up and things like that. Cause I'm not where I am without them. And it wasn't a hand out. It was a hand up. I don't think most people want handouts. I think they want a hand up, just a fair shot. That's all you can get. Got my fair shot on the field. I didn't make the cut that year. Came out the next year, I made that cut. Now I was on the second team, but I was still out there in game. So, but I don't get there unless Mike Blodgett says, here's what you're doing wrong. That's what a mentor is going to do. He didn't tear me down. He just said, here's why. And I went home, of course, you're 12, 13 years old. I'm up there crying. My dad, of course, comes up and with another mentor and just said, I'm going to let you cry about this for another day. And then that's it. You've got to keep it going because the world is just going to keep going. And he said, you'll see that tomorrow when the sun comes up and you're still in your room crying and being upset. So, and sure enough, he was right. Sun came up and I was still upset, but I was already kind of on my way to understanding what I needed to do. So that's pretty much it.
No, that's actually a good breakdown because I work in IT myself. I'm specifically cybersecurity. I think one of the things that I have noticed with black males for that matter, because you still have a lot of 17-year-olds doing internships at some of these nonprofit organizations and whatnot. They're trying to break their way into tech. Yeah. The lack of a mentor can mean the difference between flaming out and advancing. And I think that we don't necessarily, because I have multiple mentors. Understood. My first mentor in tech and IT worked for Oracle. It was a brother working for Oracle. This was back in the 90s. And he had told me, this was when being a database administrator was a big thing. If you knew Oracle and you was a DBA, you were paid. I mean, back then you were talking high six figures. Today, you're lucky to break six figures. But the point I'm making now is that those brothers were getting paid back then because they came out of those HBCUs and they got that opportunity. They were part of that Divine Nine and they kind of matriculated their way into those industries. But had I not spoken to this brother and another brother who worked for Lucent Technologies, which I think got acquired by Alcatel or Aruba or something like that, one of those other networking companies. Seeing them in real time go to work, know all the punch downs and the command lines and things like that. They told me you don't want to end up like them guys on the corner. Nah, exactly. You don't want to end up like them. Yeah, as cool as it looks, it's that old Richard Pryor joke, nothing happened until 11:30 and he had to be home at 11. So yeah, we have a choice. We can end up like that, and I'm not going to knock anybody who ends up like that. Fair enough, they make their own choices. I simply made you made different choices too. So we made different choices, but there were things put in front of us that helped us get to, this point. You just brought up the gentleman at Oracle. I actually can tell you a quick story. You'll laugh at this. In 91, 92, I went down to Freaknik. We stayed at this gentleman's house in Alpharetta, Georgia.
and couldn't believe that this brother, right? This man, get this. He put $2,000 into a company called Cell One back in like 1980. And now he was worth, this is 92, 93. Now he's worth over $22 million. Wow. And in his garage, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Smokey and the Bandit, that black Trans Am. He had one of 10 signed by Burt Reynolds. Rest in peace to Burt Reynolds. And we couldn't, of course, we're 20 years old. We can't believe what we're looking at. And this brother sat us down and he told us about what we now call wearable technology. He told us this in 1993, Mike. Wow. And he said that one day you will be able to look at a watch and it will be able to tell you, your pulse, it'll be able to tell you your pulse and the oxygen level in your blood. And because we were like, can you tell us what the future is, right? He did it, we're about to get in the car Sunday and he's like, yeah, I'll tell you some things that are going to happen. Now you're hearing this, it sounds like magic because we're all in the medical field. We're like, well, how? He said one day a doctor will be able to get up and not have to do rounds at the hospital. He'll just be able to get a printout at his house. And we're like, well, how you gonna get around HIPAA? He just kind of looked at us, so, but he was right. Now I don't see a regular watch out there. I just don't. Back in the day, those because of Casio watches and we don't.
Timex.
Yeah, the Timex. Nobody wears that anymore. They're all wearing what they call wearable technologies. And but I knew that was coming. And so it's weird to see it happening when you told the future. But then one of the things he did, I still remember this. Saturday morning, he said, I want you all to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm going to show you something. And we got up at 6 a.m. because we're out, hell, we didn't come home until 5. So we kind of, we 6 o'clock, he comes, gets us up. We go out on this front porch and this black man comes jogging by. That man, I kid you not, was prime time Deion Sanders. He's playing for the Atlanta Falcons.
Wow.
And we saw him jogging in Alpharetta. This like, man, this dude's just living the life. We couldn't believe it. Still, I remember the feeling I had when he was like, if I liquidate all my stock, he said, yeah, I liquidate all the cars and stuff, the boat. He said, I'll be worth probably about $27 million. We couldn't believe it. We could not believe it. And guy in an airplane, a boat, he was living it. And but at that point in time, you're 20 years old, you're just not willing to believe the future like that. But if you go back to 1987 and you tell them what we have now, it would sound crazy. It sounds like magic. It literally sounds like magic what we have now. And that's happened in our lifetimes. So imagine and it's moving faster, as you pointed out. So imagine what it's going to be in a decade. Elon Musk wants to land a moon mission with 3 astronauts and 3 robots. And the robots are going to do 90% of the work because they can work 24/7. So, yeah. So they want to land on Titan and drill for water. They're planning that mission right now. So, and they're going to do that in the next 15 years. So, may not be here, but yeah.
No, that's a good segue because what advice would you give black men trying to get into tech? He works at, Domino's Pizza. He doesn't have anything more than a high school diploma. What's that pivot point that you would, from an advice standpoint, that you would give him?
If he really wants to get into tech, he's going to have to buckle down and do the work. Here in Kentucky, they had Code Kentucky. It was CODDE, Code Kentucky. They gave you free classes. Now, they were rudimentary, so you have to start, this is just something you've always wanted to do. A lot of people have a good grasp on tech because they're using it every day. You go to the Apple store and hell, there's 8-year-old kids in there helping the adults. So, but ultimately what I would tell them is that you have to make the decision that you want to do something different. My cousin, you brought Domino's up. My cousin worked at Domino's, ended up going to McDonald's. We were mocking him and laughing at him. because they was like, man, you coming home smelling like French fries, stuff like that. But he knew he had a mentor working at McDonald's, and that mentor told him that one day McDonald's is going to be $1 billion company, and they're going to allow people to franchise McDonald's. And that's what he did. Now he owns two of them, and he owns two of them in South Carolina. Oh, one. He did sell one back. He owns one in South Carolina. So now, and he drives a drop-top Corvette. Came down here to Kentucky. That's where the Corvettes were made. Came down here and got it. Drove it. You know, I rode down there with him. He come back. We rode in that Corvette, drop-top down, playing friggin' NWA, Public Enemy, on the way back. And but here we are. And that's a guy who knew what he got told something by a mentor. He stuck with it. And it's the same with a black man working at Domino's. There's nothing wrong with working at Domino's, becoming, you know, learning how to work in a Domino's, learning how it runs, and then franchising a Domino's. If that's what you want to do. But if you want to get into tech, you have to want to do that work. And it can, and take it little bites at a time. You can't go in there and be like, because you'll get overwhelmed. You know, you need to learn C+, you need to learn C++, you need to learn this. No, just take your time with it. And but I recommend, because eventually Domino's is going to be, hell, it's automated now. That's when we order through the app. That's an automation.
They have a lot of patents. They have a lot of patents in place for delivery. And so I bring up Domino's, you know, and you bring up McDonald's just to pose. They're both tech companies now. 5 years ago, you wouldn't have said either one of them were tech companies. They're restaurants, right? They're in the food and beverage business. But now, when you look at the app, you download the app, you look at their, you know, their infrastructure, they're basically a tech company at this point. And so,
I didn't know you could track your pizza until somebody did it at work. I'm like, well, I can track the pizza, but it's the foresight. Whatever you can dream, it's gonna happen. I remember seeing the first Domino's pizza when I was a kid. We rolled past it. My dad said, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Why order a pizza and have it delivered? You can just go eat it." Because we ate at Pizza Hut, and we all laughed in the car. But that's the future. Whoever had that Domino's pizza, and it's still there, because I've gone back up to Cincinnati and rode into Silverton. I'm like, damn, that's the first Domino's pizza in this city. But that guy who opened that had that foresight, which, you know, and so with black men getting into tech, it's something you gotta want to do, and you need to understand that it's not where you are when you're 23, it's where you're at when you're 33. And you better start putting the ground to let you know you got to lay the foundation on a cornerstone. And you can end up on the corner drinking a 40, you know, trying to be a broke down, busted ass mixtape rapper, you know, or that guy who tore his Achilles when he was 15, talking about he was going to be the next, you know, rest in peace Kobe Bryant, or the next Steph Curry. Or you can just be, a hard-working guy working in tech, and you're making, 90 to whatever, 120,000, living a decent lifestyle, having very little debt because you went to a 2-year school or something like that. And or you can do Google online. I just found this out, and through another YouTuber, More to Life. He talks about how passport guys are going overseas, and winning. But he's like, yeah, you can get your Google certificate stuff for free. You learn it at your own pace, and not like they're pushing you. So I would say to them, start with something like that, because that allows you to learn at your own pace. Then you can see if you like it. Because saying that you want to do it and then actually doing it and enjoying it, two different things. If you learn to do it and you don't like it, you're going to hate it. You're going to hate whatever you do. You love what you do. You don't work a day in your life.
Final question. Gaming wise, what are you playing right now? What is your favorite console?
Favorite console of all time is the Xbox 360. One of my console I have right now, I have 2 PlayStation 5s. I plan on getting a PlayStation 5 Pro. Star Wars Outlaws, Madden, and the college football game are kind of where I'm, a little bit of Stellar Blade, kind of where I'm at with it right now. Really enjoying Star Wars Outlaws, but I'm a Star Wars fan, so I've always said the Star Wars games are tricky. Not only do they have to be good games, but they have to be good Star Wars stories as well. And this one so far is solid. It's not great. it's
Mhm.
solid. So I've always said that in order for games to become franchises, you have to have a solid start. You may not knock it out of the park. Another one of my favorite games is Mass Effect. Again, Mass Effect isn't a great game. It's a good game. Mass Effect 2, however, is arguably considered the greatest RPG of all time, so yeah, that's what I'm playing. I also have PSVR. I've kind of messed around with that. That Call of the Mountain. So that was, you talk about impressive tech. Wow. 4K, 100 to 120 FP, 100 frames. It is crazy tech in that thing.
It's interesting because I used to play amateur in first-person shooters for in the late '90s, early 2000s on the computer, playing Quake 2, Quake 3,
Remember
and
those,
Quake 4, and so for me, consoles wasn't that big of a deal because I built my own computers back then. I never bought a computer; I always built my computers from scratch, and so from a console perspective, I always felt like the Sega Saturn was an underrated console.
It was,
very underrated. I think Dreamcast was also underrated as well. The '90s was great for gaming. If you're a Generation Z, an Alpha, you have no idea what you've missed in the '90s. Consoles were incredible.
Yeah,
I had Sega Game Gear. I went through batteries on a weekly basis. That was just, it was unbelievable. But I definitely think that gaming has always allowed us to challenge our worldviews and some of our complexities in terms of how we deal with time and pressure and puzzles. Because I was a big Tomb Raider fan myself. Back in the day, from a first-person shooter perspective, Unreal, that was a dope, that was a dope one, and everybody played GoldenEye 007 on the Nintendo 64.
Who didn't? Yeah, lost many hours on that.
So gaming helped me kind of balance out my my going outside versus being on a computer. You didn't have social media back then. Gaming was the next thing to social media, so
you're right.
Didn't really have that. So
they don't remember MySpace either. That's kind of the original platform people were on. That's when I was in a band. That's how I met my bandmates, was on MySpace.
Wow.
So yeah, that was bad before Wi-Fi was good and you could send out like a little 2-minute demo and it would take 10 minutes to listen to it because of the buffering and things like that. So before all that stuff got started, so it's improved. It's different. Again, this was just not a decade and a half ago. You had MySpace, so not that long ago.
Moore's law, that's definitely been proven to be somewhat true. Although with AI, I think that has kind of broken Moore's law at this point. So that'll be whatever it wants to be, whatever we need it to be. And
with the machine learning, it's you can tell AI to draw a planet where humans can live, and it will do exactly that. Put it in the right spot, in the right type of solar system. It'll be a rocky planet with water. And I'm like, what it is, draw the Earth, and it doesn't. It will draw different kind of planets, So, the fact it can get that type of information and do it, that's what's amazing about it. It knows where to look, and that's also scary. So that's what's gotten better. Is its search algorithms, and then of course, if you ask it to do it again, it do it again, does it faster because it knows what it's supposed to do. Oh, make it 30% water. Type that in, and it does it. So that's amazing. So yeah, man, I appreciate it. You having me on.
I definitely appreciate having you on as well. For everyone else, please hit the like button on the way out, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.